the picture they've been seeing. Hello. Hello. God, I look disheveled, which is Jewish for a mess. But well, if you're just joining us, welcome. As always, we'll let people just kind of get in and get settled, and I'm excited to be back. So if you're just joining us, let us know you're here. Say hello, where you're from, and I don't know. All right, here it is. Favorite animal you'd like to come back as in your next life? I know it's like raises some questions. But hey, Valencia, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like that's a really loaded question to ask people, but I feel like if you were to come back in the next life, what animal would you come back as? So, Leanne, what's up? Godzilla. That's the best answer. I think we could just stop now. Yeah, what is your favorite animal you'd like to come back as in your next life? Hey, Gentil. They'll come back as a killer whale. I like that. They're so gentle. Hey, Carol. It's such a great question. Like, what animal would you come back as in your next life? But Godzilla's amazing. You are Godzilla now. Like, what a great answer. It's like nobody's gonna mess with you. You're just angry, kinda. You probably have a soft spot. If you're just joining us, we'll get started in just about 30 seconds. So if you're just joining us, let us know, say hi, let us know where you're from, and what animal would you want to come back at as in your next life. Dave Raven, what's up, man? It's nice to see you too. And we will get started here momentarily. Grab a seat. Snacks. Rachel. Hey, Miss Benny, how are you doing? All right. Just about to get loaded and ready for action here. Hi, Jenna. Oh, Deirdre, coming with the hearts. Thank you. I heart you too. All right, let's get rolling. I appreciate that, Nikki. Nikki in Dublin. I'm trying to pitch the gosh, there's so much to announce today. Well, let's get through. Hey, Mike Sizemore and Schuler. Hey. Skylar. Okay. In Texas, maybe a crow. Welcome to I am a Texas native as well, born in Houston. And so I love that spelling of Skylar. That's fantastic. Yeah, I know, Nikki. My cats have the life, and I'm like, I need to come back as that. All right, so let's get started. Let's get into stuff. I'm going to apologize now for the size of my hair. It's a long story. It will be rectified next week. In the meantime, this is not a physical representation of my mental health, although it was a few weeks ago. But of course, Beth, you would come back as a hermit crab, no doubt, and we would happily take care of you. We would give you a nice hermit crab habitat, and you would live happily ever after with Katie and I. Okay, let's jump into things. Lots of cool stuff to talk about tonight. As you know, my name is Ethan. I'm a national advocate for the International OCD Foundation, which means I have OCD, and I'm going to be talking about it until there's treatment for everyone, everywhere, affordable, effective. You know my spiel. Hi, Summer, another Texan. Well, we love Texas. Okay, so this community conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline and should not be used if you are in distress or feel unsafe. If you are in crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room, call 911 or call the suicide prevention hotline at 800-273-8255. Also, we always want to be respectful of others and kind, create a safe space as possible. As you all know, this is a public forum, but we want to create a safe space to talk about. We are all here to support one another. So it is being recorded and it will live on all the social media platforms. I froze on YouTube. That's embarrassing. I'm so sorry. Was it one of those weird, awful frozen faces that always happens to everybody? Nobody freezes like, it's always like, but anyway. So with all of that, it's good to be back. It's good to see all of you. Lots of things to talk about. Hi, Nicola in Canada. Welcome, welcome. I agree. Definitely a cat. Good evening, IOCDF. Good evening, Mike Sizemore. It's good to see all of you. Okay, so lots to talk about. You might want some updates. What is tonight's question? Hi, Marnie. Oh, it's good to see you, Marnie. I think tonight I was asking. I think you're asking that, Deirdre. What animal would you come back as in your next life? So think on that. How's everyone doing tonight? How are you? What's going on? What's new? I'll give you some updates in my world. A lot has happened since we've talked last, and then we have some current events that I want to talk about and get your thoughts on. Hey, Jane from LA, welcome, my old hometown. Thank you, Marnie. I appreciate that. Great therapist in South Florida, Marnie Jacob. Thank you. So first of all, and there's Katie O'Dunn. Okay, so the first announcement I have to make, which has nothing to do with this, but I'm going to do it because Katie didn't feel comfortable doing it before. But this is our house. This is one-on-one conversations with you and I, and it's awesome. So first of all, sit down. Are you ready? Katie and I are engaged. I asked her to marry me, not last weekend, but the weekend before. And it was amazing. And so 2 lead advocates will become 1 giant advocate. So, hey, Anna. Hey, Margie. Stacy Rosenthal Young. Hello. So that's the first big change in my life is we are engaged, which is very exciting. Now, the way I'll tie this in is, of course, oh, great question, Syed. Yeah, stay tuned and I will get back to you. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that. The reason I wanted to bring that up, honestly, is because it gives me a lot of hope. For me, and everybody has their own story. And thank you, Deirdre. Deirdre wrote, I did good on the ring. I worked hard on that ring. I will tell you that, and as many of you know, when you struggle with OCD, mental illness, all of that stuff, you miss a lot of stuff. You miss a lot of life milestones, and you miss a lot of things that you're watching everyone else do, complete, finish. So I know for me, for the first 31 years before I had treatment, I watched other couples and cousins and family members go through periods of their life, whether it's graduating from high school, graduating from college, getting engaged, getting married, and none of those things happened for me. And I kind of came to the conclusion that they weren't going to. And it's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching, as I'm sure you can all relate to. When you get to show everyone the ring, Katie, it's amazing. When you get to do something that you really felt was never going to happen to you because of mental illness, it really puts into perspective, A, your journey, and B, what's possible. And it's really the reason I want to share it with you all. It's not because, it's very exciting, don't get me wrong, but I'm not here to talk to you about my engagement. I'm really here to talk to you about my engagement is, thank you, Felice. My engagement is really symbolic of what's possible when 2 individuals with OCD come together and get treatment. And I know for me, and many of you know my story, it never seemed like an option on the table. And even after I got better, it was 10 years before I found my person. And I really felt like, oh, well, now that I got better from OCD, like things are just going to happen easily because OCD is not in the way anymore. And, that wasn't what happened. So it was a very surreal and wonderful experience. But at the end of the day, I just want to mention it because, anything is possible. And that uncertainty works both ways. There's uncertainty around things that we're nervous about, and there's uncertainty around things that we're excited about. And, in terms of meeting my person or getting married or eventually having children or whatever it is I want, there's uncertainty there. And that's kind of exciting because uncertainty means that nothing is certain, which means that there's possibility. Possibility is a very powerful word because possibility is essentially hope. And like uncertainty, we can look at possibility as a word that is negative or positive. There's a possibility that something bad may happen, or there's a possibility something great may happen. And And this is one of those possibilities that came to fruition. Thank you, Valencia. Light in the dark. I love that. So just wanted to share because it's less about me, and it's more about what's achievable and what's possible in this crazy life where we were dealt a hand that seems difficult, and not at all taking away from anybody that has other difficulties. We all have our own journeys, and our own struggles and our own obstacles. But I was born with OCD. I got worse as I got older. I was homebound and bedridden at age 31. I thought I was going to die, and that I was incurable or untreatable, unmanageable. And cut to 12 years later, and not only am I living the life that I always dreamed of and never thought I would had, but I've met an amazing individual and soulmate in person, and now we're engaged, and it is the most certain thing I've ever done in my life. So, if anything, take from that there is hope, there is possibilities, there is future, and while there are no guarantees, while there are no guarantees, just don't give up, because dreams do come true. You have to put in the effort, and I say that very humbly, uh, but it's amazing. Now, speaking of value driven behavior, as you know, I was dealing with some health issues, and I will get to questions too. So keep loading in questions, and I will definitely answer questions. So please, 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 this isn't a one-sided conversation for sure, but I know you've figured you'd all want an update. Last time you saw me, I was talking about some health issues. It got worse before it got better. It's still challenging to deal with. When I finally got an appointment with a specialist yesterday, it was very triggering. Candidly, he was a dick. I don't usually curse. Is that a curse word, really? I mean, it's short for Richard. If his name was Richard, that wouldn't have been offensive. But regardless, he was arrogant. And, if you already have health anxiety where, going in to discover something or not, so it doesn't help when somebody's like that. And I don't know that I got a whole lot of clarity. I got some clarity, and the journey continues. And, I don't think that I got some clarity around the severity of the situation, and it's not, seemingly it's not the worst of the worst, which is great. There's some things to decide. And the reason I bring this up is there's some conflicting values around it, meaning there's some choices to look into what's going on further, and there's some choices to not look into what's going on further. And both are value driven. Both is a physical health value, and both the other is a mental health value. And there's arguments for everything. And this is where it gets challenging to have OCD. And there's times where I self-stigmatize and go, oh my gosh, why is this so, why can't I just make an easy decision? And why can't I see clearly? And why does OCD have to get in there and twist and jumble things? I had my therapy session today, and she was like, what did the doctor say? And my whole thought process was, I think he said this. Well, I'm not sure if he said it. Maybe he said it. Do I remember it right? What if I didn't remember it right? I mean, So for the time being, what I know today is that I'm probably okay. And there may be some tests down the road. There may not be. But for the moment, I have a path forward with both my therapists and physical health providers. And seemingly we're moving forward, and everything is good. Or not to say that I'm not dealing with some anxiety and still some hard decisions to make around it. But we are here tonight. We're living into our values. We are doing what's important, regardless of how we may feel. And that's what it's all about. So you guys are posting a lot of questions today. So I think we should dive into questions. And incidentally, I want to introduce you. Maybe this will give you a laugh. Maybe you'll be offended. Most likely you'll be offended. But I want to introduce you to, I don't know if you can see it, but this is my pimple. His name is Hank. It's a him. He's been with me almost 3 weeks now, and he refuses to go away. So I've named him, and I've embraced Hank. Hank is my friend. And I think y'all are going to kill me, but I think we can make a correlation to OCD here. I don't like Hank. Hank's not something I want around. But am I willing to coexist with Hank? Am I willing to say, oh, there he is. I notice him. Hi, Hank. And now I'm going to go about my business. I am. What's the correlation? OCD is a pimple, and it comes up and it goes away, and it flares up and it goes away. We don't like it. We don't want to invite the pimple in for tea, but it's part of our journey. So, I'm going to put stuff on it. I'm going to give it some ERP. I don't know what that means in regards to pimples, but the bottom line is, thought I'd introduce you to Hank and then somehow tie it into OCD. You may have just signed off or never tuned into this live stream again, and I would respect that completely. So with that, I don't know if you're laughing, if you're crying, if you're just like, why, we didn't miss Ethan to begin with. But water delivery, thank you.
I wasn't going to, and then you introduced them to your pimple, so I was like, okay, it's not that official.
That was important. Don't diss my pimple analogy. Yes, we see you. Hi. Oh, living with a lead advocate. So just so you all know, and then I'm going to jump into questions. When I first met Katie, first time ever meeting her, it was at a coffee shop at an OCD event. And I walked up to her and we started talking. And she said, I remember, I think I saw you talking in Austin at the conference. And I looked at her and I was like, don't you know who I am? I'm the national ambassador for the International OCD Foundation. Yeah, and to this day, she doesn't let me live that down. So I just want you to let you know that even though I just gave her crap, that was my introduction to Katie. Which might be a great pickup line at a bar. I don't know. I mean, it worked. All right, here we go. Syed, hi. Syed, I would ask you to actually. So I am not a doctor, but I appreciate it. I know I look like a doctor. So my name is Ethan. I'm an advocate for OCD. I have OCD. I have a lot of lived experience with OCD. I've been advocating for about 11 years now. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a clinician. I'm not giving clinical advice, just advice or thoughts and experiences based on my lived experience. I'm curious if you're still on, Syed, what you mean by suggest some guidelines for religious OCD. I'm assuming you're talking about religious scrupulosity. Are you for yourself, for others? What in regards to the religious OCD are you talking about? Can you just give me a little bit more detail, and then we'll jump in. And I'll keep an eye out for the bottom of the chat thread so I can answer your additional questions once I have a little bit more info. So thank you, Syed, for that. Rachel, hi, Rachel. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Thank you all for joining in. Great audience tonight, and you are all incredible people, and I'm so excited to be back. So this is awesome. Let's see here. I feel like I'm missing somebody's. Valencia wrote, I totally understand relationships are a dark place, but so happy for the both of you two wonderful people united together. Thank you so much. It is tricky. And Katie and I are actually doing a talk on OCD and relationships at the conference in Denver. So hopefully we'll see you all there. I'll give you some insight into that, give you insight into the conference at the end. But relationships can be tricky, and it's definitely not all, not all unicorns and rainbows. But I feel very blessed, and I think that we can have very healthy relationships, whether your partner does or doesn't have OCD. And I'd love to get into that if you have any additional questions. But I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Your engagement is hope, and I love that. Thank you so much. Andrea at 7:12 p.m. wrote, I want to know that my son finally connected. I want you to know that my son finally connected with an OCD ERP expert, and he started with my son by sending him a link to one of your talks at an IOCDF conference. We were both thrilled because we already knew you through these videos, but it was also an amazing inspiration to hear your entire story. We love you. Best wishes. Andrea, that is so sweet. Thank you, first of all, for the kind. You're going to make me cry. I'm kind of mushy today. I'm not going to lie. It's been a week. But thank you. I'm so excited that your son has connected with a therapist and that has found treatment. And, there's help and hope always. And I look forward to getting more updates on your son, Andrea, and hearing how he's doing. And to that point, I always give him my email at the end. Now that your son has seen that, I'm assuming it was the keynote speech, but it may have been another talk. Have him email me. I'd love to meet him and say hi. So always feel free to reach out. Adam wrote, "This is the most certain thing I've done in my life." That gave me chills. Beautiful stuff. That was in regards to getting engaged to Katie. Vanessa has a question at 7:14 p.m. She asked, "Hey, Ethan, since being diagnosed with OCD, I now overthink and doubt everything I do in my life. How do I stop being anxious and start being more confident in myself?" What a great question. This is a great question. I mean, my first question, Vanessa, to you is, since you've been diagnosed, are you doing anything in the way of treatment, whether that's therapy, medication? Curious. But always the first thing we kind of point to is like exposure response prevention therapy. There's acceptance commitment therapy. And for those of you that don't necessarily know what I'm talking about, I'm absolutely happy to, I almost said extrapolate, but nobody uses that word, define those terms for you. But at the end of the day, excuse me, I have a horse frog in my throat. I'm going to mute myself a second. Anyway, so I think we can all, okay, I think we can, that was weird. I think we can all relate to doubting everything. It's called the doubting disease, the doubting disorder, and overthinking everything. Am I really saying this? Did I really say that? What if I did that wrong? What if I did that right? What if I'm not doing this right? What if I'm not doing this wrong? What if I'm being irresponsible? What if I'm not being irresponsible? What if I'm too being irresponsible? I mean, you question everything. And it can be exhausting, irritating, frustrating, angering. It can be pretty much all of the emotions. And that is, you saying doubting everything, is kind of the singular trait to OCD, right? I'd be curious. Sometimes we don't choose our words as carefully as we could. I'd be curious if you really doubt everything or just some things, but I know I probably would have said the same thing when I was struggling. But in terms of how do you stop being anxious and start being more confident in myself, OCD is a disease, and it isn't a confidence issue. Not to say that, perhaps, excuse me, not to say perhaps that that confidence or self-esteem isn't something that you may or you should or shouldn't work on. But the OCD in and of itself is a disease and a disorder, and it's not something you're choosing to do, or choosing to have, I should say. So I kind of want to make that separation to start out with, that you can definitely be more confident in your treatment and how you approach OCD. And obviously treatment can give you more confidence as OCD becomes a less important part of your life. But at this moment right now, it sounds like you were diagnosed and now you're kind of struggling and trying to figure things out. And so, first of all, I wouldn't take it as an attack on you. I had no confidence when I was struggling with OCD because my brain was constantly going a million miles an hour and I was doubting everything. So understood. And I'm sure everyone here can relate to that. As far as to how to stop being angry. So I just want you to have a lot of self-compassion for yourself and sort of take the pressure off yourself that you're not being confident, or that you're underperforming, or that you just need more willpower or strength, or need to change your attitude, because that's not this. In terms of how you stop being anxious, treatment and therapy, but essentially it's the willingness to sit with the uncertainty. So, whatever you're doubting, it's the willingness to potentially sit with the possibility that doubt may or may not happen. And in doing that, you're taking the power away from the OCD. So the simple analogy that I love to use is the bully analogy, which is, if a bully bullies you and you cry and give the bully the reaction that they want, they're going to continue bullying you. If the bully bullies you and you agree with them and you sort of like bully yourself before they bully you, then you're taking the power away from them. And that's sort of how we treat OCD. So if OCD says something to the effect of, if you wear that blue shirt, your mother's going to die of a heart attack. You're going to say to yourself, well, maybe not. I'm not sure. Pretty sure it's OCD. May not be. I'm going to put on the blue shirt anyway and sit with the discomfort and uncertainty that may or may not happen. Now that is easier said than done, Vanessa. And there obviously is a lot to accepting uncertainty and sitting with it. But the more we are willing to coexist with the anxiety, not try to suppress it, not try to get rid of it, and same with the thoughts, the more everything quiets down. And so I would urge you to, if you're not already seek out treatment. And we have a great resource directory on the IOCDF website. Skyla can put a link to that. And there is definitely a way to approach this. So if you haven't already, check out the website. Lots of great information, tools, resources, all of that. Also, Skyla, if you can do me a favor, I'm sure there's lots of comments, and if I scroll down, I'm going to lose my place. So if any of the people that I've already answered their questions to give additional information, just ping me on the private chat. I don't know if Syed weighed back in. I just don't want to make sure I miss anyone that I've already said, hey, give me more information. I don't want to miss their question. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it, Skyla. So Beth wrote, I don't want to feed into your OCD, but you can ask for a written report. Then when you have doubts, all you have to do is read the report. Please don't be mad at me. Would that be considered reassurance seeking? If it is, disregard this post. Great. I love that you said this, Beth. I love that you said this. So let's leave this up a second because it's a great example. So the short answer is yes, it's reassurance seeking and it's a compulsion. I'm assuming you're talking about the report. Oh yeah, when I was talking about the report from my doctor and everything. So I read the report once. He sent it to me. And I was immediately nervous that I had access to it because I was afraid I would keep looking at it. So OCD is illogical and it will constantly make you doubt. So this is where compulsions build on other compulsions and where this cycle gets really dangerous, and which is why we have to break the cycle by engaging in something like exposure response prevention. I see a lot of new names here. So let me just say exposure response prevention, gold standard of treatment in OCD. Expose yourself to the fear. Whatever it is you're afraid of, whatever it is you're doubting, expose yourself to it, just like when you're exposed normally. And then instead of doing the compulsion, which just leads to more obsessive thoughts and more compulsions, there's the response prevention part, which is learning how to respond by preventing the compulsion. So choosing not to engage in the compulsion, sitting with the discomfort, uncertainty until that anxiety decreases on its own, which it does. So it's all about, that's essentially ERP in a nutshell. Exposure and then not compulsing, and then using tools and skills to choose to not compulse, sit with the anxiety and discomfort until it eventually goes away. Doing this over and over again causes what they call habituation, which is eventually you don't care. It's not, an ERP is not about proving that something may or may not happen. It's about proving that you don't know. And it's sitting with the discomfort of you don't know. Most likely it's OCD. So you're going to sit with that, right? Like I touch a doorknob. I may get a cold. I may not get a cold. I may get COVID. I may not get COVID. I don't know. So I'm going to do what the CDC asked me to do. And I'm going to keep touching doorknobs. Do I have certainty that I'm not going to get COVID? No. But am I going to lean into my values because I want to open doors and walk through places? Yeah, sure. Why not? So to your point, Beth, it does seem easy. It's like, oh, we'll just get a report. Well, what happens is the OCD then starts to question what you're reading, and is what I'm reading true? And do I really understand what I'm reading? And I'm not a doctor. And did I read it right? And let me go back and look again. And let me go back and look again. And let me go back and look again. And let me double check it. And let me have somebody else read it and have them tell me what they read. But then did I hear that correctly? It's never ending. It's never ending. And it doesn't matter. OCD is OCD. The symptoms, the subtypes, they are unique to you, but they're not special. It's all the disease, the disorder. It's all the tornado. It's how it manifests for you. A lot of people skip subtypes and symptoms and they go from one thing to the other. Things morph, which is why the treatment is the treatment. It doesn't matter what the subtype or symptom is. The treatment still works. And so I appreciate you saying that, Beth, because that is absolutely reassurance. And I've specifically made a point of not going back to that because I know that I'll get in a loop with it. I know that I'll start to look at it. I'll have other people look at it. I can't tell you, and I don't know if any of you all can relate or have your own stories, but super short story long because I overtalk. No, long story short, when I was really struggling, I was afraid of overdosing on Tylenol. And I remember taking 2 Tylenol and then going up to bed to relax. And then I was like, what if I overdosed on the whole bottle? So I went downstairs, looked at the bottle, saw all the pills, put the top back on, went back up to bed. Well, wait, what if I didn't see it wrong? I eventually put all the Tylenol pills in a plastic baggie, zipped the plastic baggie, and I scotch taped it to the wall in front of my bed. So every time I opened my eyes, I could see that the pills were there and know that I didn't didn't swallow them all. Of course, were all the pills there? And what if it was 10 less than, because I know 10 is an overdose. And what if I had 8 and there's really 24? And were there 25? You get my point. So I love that, Beth, that you said that. I wouldn't discard it because it's a great learning lesson. But yeah, no, that would definitely be a compulsion. I'm going to sit with the discomfort that maybe I think I read it. I'm pretty sure I know what he said. Am I 100% sure because OCD makes me doubt it? Nope. I'm going to assume that's OCD, and I'm going to keep going on with my life, even if I have anxiety and discomfort around it. And I promise you, by tomorrow or the next day, I really won't care what those notes said. But in the moment, it feels, so real and so irresponsible not to look. Nicola wrote, I'm a parent and my 7:19 p.m. Skylar, sorry. I'm a parent and my 19-year-old daughter is recently diagnosed, so I'm trying to support her. She's got a therapist and a psychiatrist, but hasn't yet embraced ERP. Nicola, you are not alone as a parent with a child with OCD. I don't want you to feel that way. And I know as an adult child, it can be very tricky. It can be tricky with a non-adult child. There's some great parent support groups. There's some great parent resources. But this is what I can tell you is sometimes, at that age, it can be tough to start to embrace the ERP, especially if they're still a level of functioning. In other words, this is hard, but it's, I can still do okay. I still can get to school. I'm still in school. I'm still in college. Yeah, it's hard, but there's lots of excuses we can make up as an individual about why we don't want to engage in treatment. And ERP can be really scary. Who wants to face their biggest fears? My biggest advice to you, Nicola, is, and I know she's an adult, but ask. Let me backtrack a second. The default tends to be an ERP police role, which is like, I don't want to see you struggle. I don't want to see you suffer. So I'm going to do the things that I'm learning. I don't know if you have engaged with the therapist. The OCD is a family disorder. It's a family disease. What I can gauge from what you're saying is you're probably involved to some extent. If you're feeling helpless or you feeling like you want to support your daughter, the best thing is for her to allow you to meet with the psychologist and psychiatrist, one or the other, or have a session with her where you can learn what to do as a parent yourself. Even if she's unwilling to embrace the ERP, and you would have to ask her permission because she's over 18, you'd have to sign a release of information. But ideally, the psychologist can give you tools and skills to help you navigate her, even if she's unwilling. And this goes for all parents. This goes for all parents. Is that if your child isn't yet willing to help themselves, or if they're young or unsure, or don't make it a guessing game. Try not to assume what you should do. It's very tricky. And parenting is counterintuitive to OCD. In other words, as a parent, you don't want to see your child suffer. You don't want to see them hurt. You want to make them feel better. And so when they ask you to turn off that light switch 3 times because it's going to upset them if you don't, then you do it, because then they seem to relax and it makes them feel better. And when you say, no, I'm not going to do that, and you see them, amp up and get anxious and intense and maybe cry or lash out or rage or whatever, it's heartbreaking as a parent. And so you want to engage in that compulsion. It's almost like fiending, when you have an addiction and you're just begging for that money to buy whatever you need. There's 2 things. One is, the most important thing is to separate your child from the OCD and see them as 2 different things, right? There's your child who is, I'm sure, smart and beautiful and has a giant, amazing future ahead of her. And then there's her OCD, right? And so when she's giving you, for lack of a better word, a lot of shit or not agreeing to do things, that's the OCD. That's the OCD really wanting its fix. And so if you lose your patience, for instance, you're yelling back at the OCD, not necessarily your daughter. So you need to have a lot of compassion for yourself as well. The other piece of that is, once you separate the OCD from your daughter and really see it as a disease and not, her trying to be her, then it's about getting educated about how to engage in it. It's systematic. You don't want to flood her by immediately cutting her off from her compulsions if she's living at home. At the same time, you don't want to make her sicker either by helping her engage in rituals and compulsions, which is why a conversation with your therapist would be the most effective treatment. A conversation with a therapist or psychologist, you can begin to work together to start to put into place systematic changes that will force her to hopefully engage in treatment. So I'm just making some assumptions that she lives at home. She may not. She may be at school. I don't know if you pay her bills. I don't know if she pays for anything or pays. But many, many times, I don't want to make assumptions on your own specific situation, but many times, when everything is taken care of, then we have the ability to engage in our OCD because we don't have responsibility. So you can start making small changes with your therapist's supervision, to say it starts small. You never, we're not talking kick your kid on the street, learn how to live, but starts very, very small, which is, listen, I'm going to stop doing this because I care and I don't want to make your OCD worse. I want to make you better. So I love you, but I refuse to make you more sick. Goodbye. And then it can move toward, your cell phone. Well, if you don't start seeing your therapist, you have 2 more months with it. And then, you're going to have to pay half yourself. And again, don't do that. I'm simply saying that there's an approach to help teens specifically start to engage, or really adults, children, engage in treatment. And that is one way to approach it. So lots of options here, but I'm super excited that they found therapists, found a psychiatrist. There's not a set amount of time to get better. So try to be patient, even though I'm sure it just feels like agony. I know it did for my mom, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. At 719, Gentil, I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize. It's meditation considered ERP. Should I practice it before getting ERP treatment? Thanks in advance. So meditation is not ERP. Meditation is the act of sitting silent and just becoming present, becoming completely present, completely mindful, noticing your thoughts, not getting rid of your thoughts, not getting rid of all thoughts, but really just how many times can we come back to the present moment, the breath, that peace of mind. Meditation is a form of mindfulness that is part of, I think it started with Buddhism, but it is a part of dialectical behavioral therapy. It's really a tool, but no, it is not ERP. It is not OCD treatment. It is none of those things, but it can be a wonderful addition to your ERP practices and to your skills and tools when you find yourself struggling, when you find it hard to get up during the day, when you find it hard to engage in values or things that are meaningful to you. I try to meditate every day, and I know when I'm really struggling, I always practice a meditation just because I know it helps me get centered so I can engage in the tools and skills that I have. Oh, Nicole wrote, I'm dealing with a lot of frustration. How can I best support her? Yeah, I figured you were dealing with frustration. Hopefully that gave you some additional answers, Nicola. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Skyla. I will get to that in 1 second. So Adam wrote, okay, we are at Adam. Perfect. Okay, so Adam, I know your comment got cut off. So I'm going to read it from the private chat where Skyla gave me the full comment because it gets cut off on my end. So Adam wrote, speaking of doubts, I have 2 co-occurring disorders, OCD and anorexia. My OCD enforces my eating disorder in many ways. One of the more concerning is that I actually question my RD, dietitian, to the point of exhausting for both of us, and often find myself looking on the internet for answers instead of trusting her. It gets so bad that there are times I doubt that I even have anorexia and OCD. Bottom line is I have trouble listening to what she says, and at times don't think there is a problem at all. Any advice? Great question, Adam. And first of all, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Comorbidities like, OCD and eating disorder, OCD and addiction are really difficult to manage, especially because a lot of folks don't know how to manage them simultaneously, or treat them simultaneously. I'm actually curious, based on your comment, if you are currently getting treatment for OCD while you're working on your eating disorder, because as I'm reading, obviously the OCD is very much interfering with your work with your dietitian. So I'm super curious if you've had any type of treatment for your OCD. If not, is it a possibility? And can you work concurrently with an OCD therapist, with your dietitian, to help you engage in what your dietitian is asking you? And so that obviously that's more effective. What I can speak to without knowing your exact situation is you're definitely not alone. OCD causes so many doubts in so many areas, especially with experts. Trust me, I just went to the doctor. I'm doubting everything he said. But and I'm being serious. So it can be exhausting, and I know it's difficult. I would say that it's really hard to do without treatment and without support. So I would seek out a clinician to help you through this, or some sort of OCD support. But at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to tell you. You're not alone in thinking that you don't have OCD or you don't have anorexia. That's the OCD also attacking that. If you have a formal diagnosis of both those things, you know, many times our own OCD makes us think we don't have it, or that we're crazy, or that, you know, there's a million other things going on. And so the advice I would give you, similar to what I've said to other people, is, you know, number one, if you have a treatment provider or therapist, engage them in helping you navigate this issue. If it's exposure response prevention, if you're with a therapist that isn't doing that, immediately find one that is. But the other piece of that is, you know, being willing to sit with the discomfort, being willing to live with the thought of, okay, maybe I don't have OCD, maybe I don't have anorexia, and maybe I don't trust my dietitian, but I'm pretty sure, I know that OCD is a doubting disorder. I know that it causes me to question everything this expert says. And so I'm going to try to sit with that noise and listen to her anyway, or her, him, or them, your dietitian. Listen to your dietitian, regardless of the noise in your head. Much harder. It's not easier said than done. And this is where, you know, an expert can really help with that. I will tell you that I know tons of people that are in amazing places of management and recovery from OCD and eating disorders and OCD and addiction. There are amazing facilities out there, residential and outpatient, and therapists that specialize in OCD and eating disorders. I don't know where you are, but I will give out an email at the end. And, you know, please, if you feel like you're not getting adequate treatment, or you have additional questions, it's a much larger conversation, Adam, but please don't hesitate to email me. I'll give it out at the end, and we can talk more at length about it. But you're not alone. It is definitely common to question the diagnoses themselves, and it makes sense that your OCD is interfering with your work on your eating disorder. So ideally, working on your OCD simultaneously would be really, really effective. So you could be willing to sort of even just open a slight window to being willing to do some of the things your dietitian says, without, you know, reassuring or just flat out saying no because it feels uncomfortable or not safe. So hopefully, Adam, that was helpful. Rachel wrote, do you think a lack of self-confidence is a major sign of OCD? I don't know that there's any research to point to that. That's at 7:24 p.m. Sorry, Skyla. I don't think there's any research to back that. I think there's lots of people that have low self-confidence for a variety of reasons. You know, I think that lots of people with OCD may have a lack of self-confidence, but I don't think a lack of self-confidence is a major sign of OCD, just because you could have a lack of self-confidence for a zillion different reasons. But it's an interesting correlation. And I do think, obviously, because OCD can be so tricky, especially if it's untreated. Yeah, we're not very confident because, you know, confidence is sort of certainty, isn't it? I'm confident I can do this, or at least more confidence than more certainty than uncertainty. And since OCD is all about uncertainty, and that's sort of the thing that's ruling us, it would make sense that confidence isn't overly present in someone with OCD, since, you know, we're just unsure about so many things. So, you know, confident people seem really sure. Whether that's true or not, that might just be how they're presenting. I'm acting confident that I'm okay with my hair right now, but in reality, I'm kind of upset that I'm doing a live stream with, this. And so, but, you know, I'm pretending to be confident. You may sign off and say, God, he was really confident with that haircut. I have no idea why. But so, you know, as far as, oh, well, that guy's, you know, not confident, does he have OCD? That isn't relatable, because there's too many reasons why you could have a confidence issue. But, you know, you could assume most likely that if someone is really struggling with OCD, their self-confidence is probably low. And that makes sense. Skylar wrote, Ethan, I've been inspired by your words on how it's possible to live a full, beautiful life with OCD. As I progressed in therapy, I've begun to see that you're absolutely right. You're going to make me cry. It's true. I won't lie to you all, ever. It's not easy, but it's, you know, I'm mushy. I'm mushy today. when I got better, I made a promise that I wanted to advocate because I wanted people to know that there was help and hope. And I wanted people to know that if I got better, you could too. Because I knew how sick I was. I'm not saying I was the sickest or had the worst OCD ever. And I was so excited that I know someone, I'm apologizing, I'm forgetting your name, that watched, their son watched my keynote speech. And in it, I have footage of when I was really sick. And I didn't agree to them filming me at the time, but I was so glad I had it when I got better, because if somebody could see me then and then see me now, hopefully there would be a light bulb or an aha moment, because I can't tell you how many times I show people that footage and they don't believe, they think I'm acting, or they don't believe that was me at all. Because it's just a completely different person. So I was so excited that the IOCDF chose me to tell my story on that size stage and platform, and that I could share what I had been through, both visually and through my words. And I have always meant what I said, which is, if I can get better, you can too. And it's not a perfect science. Not every day is great. But life can be pretty beautiful, more good days than bad. It means everything to hear you say that, Skylar. There's more full life ahead of you, and there's more full life ahead of everyone here. And that's what it's about, living a full life. Full means happy, sad, joy, anger, but you're involved. You're playing in the game of life. You're not on the sideline, which is a gift, especially when you've been on the sideline watching everyone else go through those things. So I always try to use a full life, not a happy life or a joyous life. Well, that's the goal every day. It's just not realistic. But that makes me so happy. And just keep continuing on, because there's just more ahead, and that goes for everyone here. So thank you for sharing that, Skylar. That's really, really meaningful. And hopefully, and also thank you for being an amazing advocate, because you don't understand how important it is that you said that, because you saying that will hopefully inspire anyone on this stream that may doubt what I'm saying, or may look at me and go, yeah, well, that's you, but my OCD is different. Because that's what I thought when somebody came to talk to me and like, I did treatment and now I'm well. And I'm like, I can't move and I don't believe you. And that's you. And this is me. So hear from someone else that this works. So thank you, Skyla. Daniel at 7:27 p.m. Hi, Ethan. How do you handle conflicting fears, as I call them, when trying to do ERP? For example, I fear the consequences of engaging in compulsions, and of course, fear of not doing them. Let me reread that. I think I know what you mean. Conflicting fears, as I call them. For example, I fear the consequences of engaging in compulsions, and of course, fear not doing them. So the way we break this down is values. Inevitably, engaging in compulsions and our fears are ego dystonic, meaning they don't align with what we truly want in life, right? So by engaging in a compulsion, you know that you're going to get relief, but you also know that you're making your OCD sicker or worse, and you're making yourself sicker. By not engaging in a compulsion, you have to sit with that discomfort, that whatever that fear is or that discomfort may or may not happen, and you're definitely going to feel discomfort. But the thing to remember here is you're choosing your life and yourself, and choosing not to compulse is the way we move forward in getting better from OCD. So if you're having conflicting fears of like, gosh, I don't want to feel this ick, but I also don't want to have OCD, then, John Grayson makes a great point of saying like, well, think about what you're losing by choosing to compulse. What are you losing in your life? What are you choosing instead of your values? So if you're going to choose to compulse, you're not choosing your values. You're not choosing your life. You're not choosing the things that are important to you. So be very clear about what you're losing. And when you have those conflicting fears, I immediately want you to separate yourself into two piles. One is if I choose to compulse, I may feel better for 5 minutes, but I'm going to compulse again. I'm going to compulse again, and I'm going to compulse again. And I'm not going to do anything that I want to do in my life. Or I'm not going to compulse. It's going to feel really uncomfortable for a while, but I know that I'm heading toward my values and heading toward the life that Skylar just told us about. It's not a perfect science. Doesn't mean that I don't compulse. Doesn't mean that you're not going to compulse, but really start making that differentiation between what you're choosing, because yeah, they are both scary. Choosing to prevent, choosing the response prevention of ERP is scary, and not compulsing is scary. because what if the fear happens? But at the end of the day, we have to embrace this idea that it's OCD and live with the uncertainty that it may or may not. But until it does, I'm not going to compulse. Just like you choose to cross the street, you could get hit by a car, but you choose to do it anyway and live with the uncertainty that you may or may not, because the percentages is pretty low. So you're like, you know what? I may or may not, but I'm going to cross the road anyway. So you need to choose, Daniel, to cross the road, regardless of what it is. Cross the road. Hey, Michelle Witkin, good to see you. I hope you're still here. Yeah, Kate wrote at 7:29, maybe the doctors didn't check thoroughly enough, or I didn't explain myself well enough. OCD, health, and concerns. Oh, absolutely. I totally get that. Let me see if I can find. I know there's lots of questions. Yeah, Rachel wrote, Nicola, happy to chat if you want. I'm in UK, but I'm a parent with a child who's struggling to engage. Yeah, you guys would have a great conversation. I know Rachel's story well. And so you definitely should connect if possible. Thank you so much, Rachel, for offering that. Beth wrote, sorry, Beth. I see you were just talking about reports. And yes, you already knew the answer to rereading. I see Syed wrote a response. Let me just read these real quick. Sorry, it took me so long, Syed, to get back down to you. A friend of mine has religious scrupulosity. This is at 7:33 p.m. Skyla. He is a journalist. He has a lot of feelings of guilt, sin, and harming others. And then at 7:37 he wrote, guilt and harming someone through his work. My friend says that thoughts come in my mind that I continue the job or publish pictures of people in my articles. It will harm them, or I will be guilty before them. So this raises a lot of questions, Syed, and this is a pretty big question. And as a friend, I think you're amazing for wanting to sort of get some answers for your friend. It sounds like the religious scrupulosity piece. So there's a harm component, right, which is a very common subtype of OCD, symptom, fear of harming others. It can be a physical harm, or if I think that I'm going to harm them, or in this example, if I publish articles or publish people, it's going to harm them in some way. But also if it's tied into whatever religion he is, whatever faith tradition he is, and what that faith tradition says, and if it's tied into a religious component of maybe I'm committing a sin, or maybe I'm not sure how the religious component is tied into this. What I can say though is, based on what you're saying, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm just as handsome as most of them. What I can say is that what you're describing is something that we call magical thinking, which is simply two things that aren't connected, but we are afraid are. So the example I gave earlier about if I put on my blue shirt, what if my mom has a heart attack? Same thing, right? If I publish these pictures of these people in my articles, maybe it will cause harm to them. Now, I don't know what kind of articles he's publishing. They could be, op-eds or exposés or things that, he's seen other people have articles posted about them and it has hurt their careers or hurt, I'm not sure what harm means, and therefore he'll be guilty of something. But what you're describing, without knowing too much information, sounds similar to OCD, and it sounds intertwined potentially with his religious beliefs. And, I would definitely, gently refer him to the International OCD Foundation website, which we'll post at the end, and he can find some information about that. You can also research some information since you probably know a little bit more. And Skyla, you're amazing. Skyla already put a link just below on faith and OCD and resources and religious scrupulosity. There's also a faith and OCD conference coming up, which I'll talk about. But yeah, this is it begs more questions to be asked. But I mean, on the surface level, for instance, if your friend was a journalist and worked for a fashion magazine and took pictures of fashion, right? And then he was afraid that if he published the picture of that person, then something bad was going to happen to that person. That would be very much, rooted in OCD and magical thinking. And then therefore refused to publish, didn't publish, avoided publishing because of the fear that somehow there's some tie between being in that magazine. On the other hand, if your friend, this is just my opinion, take it for what it's worth. If your friend works at, the Inquirer, and he's posting a story about, somebody cheating on their wife, then yeah, that could potentially hurt them. Seems, what I'm saying? It could. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's what you're saying, but I just wanted to it just depends on the situation, but I'd be happy to go into it deeper and maybe help direct you and or your friends to some resources that may help. I'll give my email out at the end as always, and feel free to please reach out, but hopefully that gave you some insight. Actually, we're just at about 4 minutes and I have a ton of announcements. I know there's a ton of questions left. Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today, sort of for my comeback, if you will. I'm here. I am with you. You have been amazing. Real quick, stick around. I'll give out my email address. If I didn't get to your question, please ask me. Email me, ask me the questions. I'm happy to go into detail. And Beth, I know you have an email in my inbox. You sent it 2 days ago. And I know that because I'm caught up with my emails, people. Like, I may have not been on the stream, but I was answering emails because I had 30 or 40 of them left. So we are caught up. It's the perfect opportunity to send me an email. But stick around because we have a lot of announcements to go over. So first, as always, I want to thank the IOCDF and thanks Skyla, who is a rock star on social behind the scenes, for keeping the lights on. So first of all, some quick announcements tomorrow. And oh, by the way, if you have questions and you don't want to wait, you can also always ask questions during Lunch and Learn. So tomorrow, join advocates Liz McInvale and Chris Tronson for this month's Lunch and Learn. It's on relationship OCD, which I know there's some questions about. They are joined by panelist Shiva Raji. I don't think I said that right, but yes, you can ask questions live or submit them. So tomorrow, Chris and Liz, relationship OCD. Not too good with names. Normally I'm a good name person. Okay. Registration is open for the annual IOCDF Research Symposium in July. So if you're researchers or students to share data and findings, the latest OCD related disorder. I'm skipping through this because most people on you aren't probably researchers, but if you are a researcher, clinician, Marnie's obviously a clinician, or others, you can check out the IOCDF.org symposium. The big announcement that I'm so excited about is registration is open for the 27th annual OCD conference. Not dissing the symposium. That sounded mean. But I'm so psyched. It's been 2 years since we've been in person. This is taking place in Denver this July. Special event for this. This special event is for the entire OCD and related disorders community, including individuals, families, supporters, therapists, and researchers. Learn more and register at IOCDF.org. Listen, if you guys have never been, it's an unbelievable conference. It's 3 days of togetherness, being with your people, finding resources, being around the smartest and brilliant minds in the field, and every one of them is accessible. They know if they're at this conference, then you can go up to them and ask them questions. Is there a therapist you've been dying to talk to? They may be at the conference. If you want to talk to, Michael Janicki about medications, he'll be at the conference. It's just an amazing 3 days. I'm really excited to get back there. And so visit IOCDF.org, OCDCon. Also, there are volunteer opportunities. I know that it isn't cheap to go, both with travel and registration. So navigate. I don't know the exact link, or if you have it, Skyla, but there you can volunteer. Volunteering is so easy. It's like 2-3 hours, and then you can go to the conference for free. So just tossing that out there if funds are tight. Also, May 9th, Faith and OCD Conference. It's an online conference for faith members, faith leaders, mental health professionals. You can get more info and register at iocdf.org/faith conference. Lots of conferences. It's really exciting. I'm so excited. Also, you can join us for the 1 Million Steps for OCD Walk this June and October. Find a walk near you by registering today at iocdf.org/walk for a day of community advocacy and fun. Lots and lots going on this summer. I love that we can support as much as we possibly can. All of you. You are all amazing, and I love this crew. And I can't wait to see you, Grace. I just scrolled down to the end. I can't wait to see you, Grace, in Denver as well. Okay, so quickly, as you know, this live stream is one of many. You can see the entire schedule and submit questions and suggestions for future streams at iocdf.org/peace of mind. You can also view record. Yep, there we go. Thank you, Skyla. You can also view recordings of past live streams at IOCDF's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/IOCDF. And remember to like and subscribe to get notified when live streams are live. My mom's going to kill me if she's still watching. She always says, during the announcements, you got to slow down. And I was like, but there's time. Oh, my mom left a comment. She never opens up. I might have to read that, though it might show preferential treatment. All right, real quick. 8 p.m. This is I have to read this because she rarely comments personal stuff. 8 p.m. Last comment. Liz Smith. Ethan did say at his worst times, while suffering with OCD, that if he could get better, that he would work hard to help others that suffer with OCD. We are so proud of our son. As his parents, we worked hard to do. Oh God, I can't read this. To do what his therapist advised us to do. That was critical to his success in fighting OCD and winning. It's hard work, but there is hope and help for everyone. Don't give up. Parents, don't give up. Thank you, Mom, for saying that. Mm-hmm. I would not have gotten better without my parents. And I talk about that a lot in my live streams. And they made some really hard decisions to help me get better. And I wouldn't be here without their decisions. And if I thought I went through pain and suffering, what they had to go through to see me struggle and suffer, yeah, I owe a lot to them, and I'm so blessed and grateful to have Liz as my mom and Sam as my dad. And so thanks, Mom. Things were going great. I slowed down. Well done. All right. So yeah, to be notified when you're going live, follow the IOCDF on social media. You can subscribe and follow on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, I think. And if you need resources, please visit IOCD. I know Beth heard I'm not crying. I'm not crying either. If you need resources and help, visit the IOCDF.org. As always, I promise my email address at the end of the live stream. You can email me at justethan@iocdf.org. Skylar will put that up. I enter that email. That goes directly to me. Questions, comments, thoughts. If you disagree with some of the things I said, it's always an open and honest and candid conversation. So please don't hesitate to email me there. With all of that, it's good to be back. It's really good to be back. We'll be back 2 weeks from. Oh no, Skylar, do I have this right? We're going to be back next week because it's the start of the month. So I think there's 2 in a row here. If I remember looking at my calendar, which I'm going to pull up real quick to just make sure I'm not making things up. May 3rd. Oh, May 3rd is a town hall. Okay, totally kidding, but it's still May. So yes, May 3rd is a town hall. So you will see me on May 3rd, and then just Ethan the following week. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. Feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. Be well. Be compassionate. And I will see you. And I'll see you next week for the town hall, and in 2 weeks for community conversations. Have a beautiful evening.